Yo, what's going on? In this video, we're going to talk about how do you know you are about to make a bad financial decision. Hey, I can't speak for everybody else, but there were some things that I knew I was about to make a bad financial decision if some of these things apply. So I'm going to give the top 5 reasons why I knew I was about to make a bad financial decision. Some of these may apply to you, some of them might not. If you could think of any, let me know down low in the comments. Hey, we're gonna dive in. As always, I'm Marcus. You're the channel of Debt Free Dad. We're talking finances and attorney reactions. Make sure you hit a like button so this video can get out to more people, and definitely subscribe to the channel so you can become a part of the Intellectual Savage family and stay up to date when new content is dropped. Okay, so let's get it. Number 5. What is the number 5 reason that I know I'm about to make a bad financial decision? I guess it would be called you're about to make a bad financial decision if number 5, you're acting out of desperation. This is just a thing where something happened and you immediately make a decision without giving yourself time to think, soak it in, and think of all the other options. What are one of the common reasons? Let's think about it. Reason number 1, you see it often with cars because, oh man, I got in a car accident. I need to get a new car. Why don't I get this Tesla that I test drove and I probably don't need to buy yet because I shouldn't have test drove it? But that's how it happened. Anytime you're at a point of desperation because an emergency happened or you don't have something, you are a prime target to make a bad financial decision. It could be getting that car because your car got damaged and taking on car payments instead of just getting something you could pay for cash. It could be, you know what, the hot water heater went out. I don't have the money to fix it, so I'm gonna charge it on this charge card that's 22%. It could be, you know what, I really want to go on vacation and I don't want to let my wife and kids down. So even though I ain't got the money for it, you know what, I'm gonna put it on this American Express card and pay it off. And the next thing you know, 2 years later, you're paying for a vacation that you took 24 months ago, which doesn't make sense. So that's reason number 5. If you're acting out of desperation, you're probably going to make a bad financial decision right around the corner. Reason number 4, I knew I was about to make a bad financial decision if my first thought was regarding or related to what other people thought. I know someone recently who got a car, and the first thing they said when they got the car is everybody liked the car. And I just kind of laughed because I was like, who cares what everybody's like? But if you're about to get something and your first thought is, man, I'm going to be killing them with this, you might be on the verge of making a bad financial decision. I haven't done it much as I was older because, I'm older. But when I was younger, I used to think about that all the time. Man, when I get these J's, I'm a killer. Man, if I pull up in this, I'm a killer. Man, if I put on this iced out watch, woo, I'm a killer. So if your immediate thought is regarding what other people think about something you're going to purchase, it could be a chance you're probably making a bad financial decision. Well, why would that necessarily be a financial decision? Because you're really not getting it for yourself. It's probably not a need. It's probably not a want. It's more a line of a flex. Do you really need the flex? Because you're impressing people who you're only going to see for a short period of time, who probably don't even know your ass. One thing for sure, they damn sure don't give a damn about whatever it is you think they care about. So that's reason number 4. If you're thinking about what other people think, and just to get something, you're probably about to make a bad financial decision. It applied to me at least. Reason number 3, how I knew I was about to make a bad financial decision is I just jumped out there and did it with no financial planning at all. Now, there are some things you can just do on the spur of a moment and it won't set you back financially. Like, you know what, man, I know eating out today not on the budget, but I'm scrambling. I ain't got no time. I'm gonna go out to eat, or I just want to treat myself. Forget it. Something like that is manageable and you can retaliate from. But let's just think about it. If you're about to jump out and make a purchase and you haven't done anything to prepare for that purchase financially, it's a good sign that you may be on the verge of making a bad financial decision. One of the things you see commonly is just past us is when Amazon Prime Day rolls around. Amazon Prime Day come up every time you look at your phone. They send you a notification of a flash sale. Hey, 90-inch TVs, 56, 60-inch TVs on sale for $200. And you think, damn, man, this TV only $200. I'm saving $300. Well, actually, you're spending $200 because you're not saving anything because you probably got a TV in every damn room in your house. So if you're about to make a purchase that you didn't take any steps to prepare for financially, it might be a sign that you're about to make a bad financial decision. This one was interesting for number two because I asked my son, how do you know you're about to make a bad decision? And he said, you know, you're about to make a bad decision if you ask your friend who always has bad ideas and they think it's a great idea. That actually makes sense and is a great point. Let's just think about it. If I was in the market for a car and I was like, man, I really want this car and the payments will only be 4 years, X amount of dollars. If I go and ask someone who has bad financial habits and they think, like, man, yeah, I think you should go and get it, man. That's going to be tight. Everybody riding around in the new Mercedes or the new BMW. You should go ahead and get you one. If you are taking your advice from someone who may be in a worse financial situation than you are, you may want to reconsider that move because there's a possibility that you are on the verge of making a bad financial decision. We always do this. We always solicit advice from people who don't have experience in a particular area. Asking someone who's terrible with their finances for financial advice. Asking the person who's been divorced 3 times about marital advice or relationship advice. Let's just cut it out, okay? If you're reaching out and getting advice from someone who doesn't have experience in that area, pump your brakes, slow down, find another person to solicit an opinion from because there's a possibility that you may be making a bad financial decision. Now, number one was interesting because it applies to me. And really, I only thought about it when I was having this conversation with my son. I asked him, how do you know you're about to make a bad decision? And, I said, I told him, I said, I know I'm about to make a bad financial decision if the idea seems like a great idea. I know that sounds wild. Like, wait a minute, DFD, that don't make any sense. Like, if the idea sounds like a great idea, isn't it a great idea? Yeah, that's what you think in theory. But my son actually broke it down to me. He said, you know what? You're a little bit more confident and sure of yourself than me. And I said, you know what? You're right. I think my good ideas are great ideas, and I think my bad ideas are great ideas. And that could be a recipe for disaster financially. Prime example, I told y'all about the Tesla that I went to go test drive and I really wanted. Well, what did I do? I rationalized in my mind why it was a good idea to get. What was one of the reasons, DFD, that you gave yourself to justify getting this Tesla that you aren't ready to buy yet? I blamed it on my son. I blamed it on my son and going away to college. I was like, man, my son about to go away to college. So it'd be dope if I go ahead and get this Model X right now. That way I can get all of his stuff up there on one trip. It'll be convenient for us. As a family, we're going to have something reliable where we can go back and forth to check on them. I made all these BS excuses up in my head to justify the idea. So if you have an idea, it applies for me because I'm a little bit arrogant and probably a little bit overconfident at times. But if I have an idea that's too good of an idea, I generally have to give myself 48 to 36 hours to, pump my brakes, think about it. I can't do it on the first day, maybe 36, 48 hours, 2, 3 days I'm going to need to think about it to see if it's the right decision, something to that effect. Then I'll move forward accordingly because sometimes I have to come off that financial cliff. I think the idea is so great. I need to give myself a buffer, a day and a half, 2, 3 days a week to really evaluate it And when I do that, normally I come back off of that cliff and I get myself grounded. So that's reason number one for me, how I know I'm about to make a bad financial decision, because I justify it in my head and I make it seem like it's a great idea when it's actually a terrible idea. So I actually have to pace myself, give myself time to let it marinate so I can rationalize that this idea is actually dumb as hell. Hey, I got one more as an honorable mention, and this one is for all y'all out there because everybody probably did this. You know you're about to make a bad financial decision if you have to justify it with an immediate family member. Well, what is that? I talked a little bit about it with the Tesla. I was almost about to get foolishly. I blamed it on my son. One example where people make bad financial decisions often is when their family grows. Every time, every time when my son was born, what did I do? I bought a house. When my daughter was born, what did I do? I said, oh man, we need more room. Let me buy this big ass Tahoe that we really didn't need to buy. The car we had at the time, it was like a Nissan Maxima and a Kia. They were actually perfectly fine cars to carry around four people. I can't think of any instance. The only instances where buying that big ass Tahoe actually came into play when we were making long trips. But the overall cost of it, the payments I had to make, I could have actually saved a lot of money. So an honorable mentions comes when you use your kids as an excuse to get something. A lot of times it comes with having a family. Like, oh man, I got a 2 bedroom apartment. Me and my lady in this 2 bedroom apartment. She just had a baby. We got to get a bigger place. You got 2 bedrooms, and the baby ain't nothing but this big. The baby gonna be in there with you for 6 to 8 months any damn way because you ain't gonna want it out of the sight. You don't have to rush and get a bigger place for a toddler or for a baby that's not gonna give a damn about it. Before we go out of here, I'm gonna let y'all know some of the things that we think are big financial decisions to make because we have our children don't even remember. I had this conversation with my son because I was talking about how sometimes I wish I waited till I was further along in my career to, before I had him because we could have avoided some financial hardships. And when me and him had a conversation, you know what I realized? The memories I have of being financial hardships, my son doesn't even think of those as financial hardships. And he like, what? He was like, nah, I don't. I didn't think of that as a financial hardship. Like, when we couldn't go on a vacation, so we had to drive 2 hours to go to a day trip at the beach. And I used to feel bad, like, man, I ain't got enough bread to take my little son out and have him out at the beach for 2, 3, 4 days or something like that. In my head internally, I looked at those as like, man, I didn't have my paper right. And I kind of made mistakes and I failed in that aspect. But once I talked to my son, he put it in the context for me. He was like, I don't know. I remember. Only thing he remembered is having fun, throwing sand on dad, being out in the water, floating away, almost drowning. So he didn't think of it. So, that's we can't use our kids as an excuse to make a bad financial decision because you think you need a bigger house, you think you need a bigger car because you got an addition to the family. But that goddamn baby don't care about the car. That baby don't care about the house. The only thing that baby care about is love, and that's what you got to give. As always, hey, if you like this video, check out the video on the screen. There's going to be more content related to finances and attorney reactions.